First change in capabilities that I want to discuss are things that any installer or service person would need to know out of the gate if they're working with an X board versus an older generation board. The first thing I want to talk about is the energy saver, because if an installer is not prepared for the difference, he will think perhaps something is wrong with it because the display went out. So let's talk about the new energy saver. The system to my left here is currently in energy saver mode that is turning the backlight display off. Now the previous version had this, but the backlight would stay off at all times. So when you approach a system when the backlight is off, the first touch of any button will turn that display on, and the other functions of that button will be ignored for that first push. So for example, I can just push next and the backlight display will come on. Now the reason we added this is that we learned over time that the LED displays can lose a little bit of their color with many hours of service. This will allow preservation of the color as well as the energy saving feature. But as I mentioned in my introduction, the important thing is that if a user screen occurs, such as a red screen in any event that requires attention, it could be a low salt alert, it could be a no draw cycle alert, or it could be a valve error. Anything that requires immediate attention by the customer, the screen will turn red and it will remain red until it's corrected. So that's what's new about the energy saver. Now let's talk about where that's set up. That's set up in the installer mode when they originally put their systems, their settings in a new system. So that would be the next and the up button. So you would go through your normal settings such as hardness or gallons capacity, and I'm going to rapid cycle through the choices until we get to the energy saver. Now you will have three choices on the energy saver. It will be energy saver off, in this case it was on, energy saver off, or the new setting is called auto. Now it's important to understand that when the boards come from assembly, from the factory setting, they will all be set to auto unless you change it. That's important for an installer to know because they'll set the system up and turn away from it, and if no buttons are pushed for 5 minutes, the display will go out. And they might think something's wrong because that acts different than what they're used to. So everybody should get the notice and the bulletin on the energy saver. Make sure it gets into the hands of your installers and service personnel, and that when they go out, they'll be expecting this. There's one more setting that I want to touch in the installer mode. Again, the next and up, if you're familiar with the Gen 2 boards, you will see a new setting. And it's titled at the top, Override Time, Hour, and then Minutes. This is very similar to regeneration time, but we've added this new segment in there specifically for the alternating twins, because if you set an alternating twin with a day override feature, you can now control the time of day that that day override will occur. In previous generations, it always occurred at 12 midnight. In the new X boards, you can make it happen anytime you want. And that's important if you're developing around a certain characteristic of an application where you may want that cycle to occur in the afternoon or at another time of day other than midnight. So please be aware that that setting is in the installer mode, and the default value is 2 a.m., the same as the regular regeneration time. You can set these at exactly the same time, and it will simply mean that the day override will regenerate at the same time that a normally activated regeneration cycle would occur at. So those are two issues that any installer would need to know before they go out with a new X board.